You're only going to find the Honda Civic front-wheel drive regardless of the trim level that you look at, and it doesn't matter if you're in Canada or the States. Front-wheel drive isn't necessarily a bad thing in the wintertime, like as I get hit by a snowstorm here, but it's going to be okay as long as you get a good set of winter tires. You don't want to run all seasons, regular all seasons in the winter. You're just going to get better traction overall with a good set of winters. So that's one thing I recommend. If you're in northern states or in Canada like me, front-wheel drive is okay. Winter tires are going to be your go-to for sure. Wheel sizes and styles for the Civic are going to vary depending on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. You're at least a 16-inch wheel up to an 18-inch with varying styles depending on that trim. And the matte finish on this one, I think actually looks kind of nice. The front end style of the Honda Civic is really simple. You've got LED headlamps inside of the ride, and you're going to find those LEDs regardless of the trim level that you're looking at. There's a basic honeycomb grille that matches the lower part of the bumper as well. And then you've got a little bit of a body colored lip along the very bottom part of the bumper. Technology-wise, in the front end, you're going to find the option for the forward sensing system, but that's only going to be in the highest sport touring hybrid model. Outside of that, you're not going to find parking sensors inside of this ride. Underneath the hood of the Civic, you're going to find 4 different engine choices, with the SI and Type R having a unique option. But inside of the regular Civic, there are 2 different engine choices that are available. So the base engine is going to be a 2-liter non-turbocharged engine that's paired with a CVT. And then you've got the option for this. It's a 2-liter hybrid engine, and it's a traditional hybrid, which means that you can't plug it in, but it charges 2 different ways. So it'll charge up as you drive using that gas engine. On top of that, it's also going to charge up as you brake, so it utilizes regenerative braking. This one's the 2-liter hybrid, which pushes out an impressive 200 horsepower and 232 pound-feet of torque. So if you want the most possible power, this is the one to go to for sure. I'm going to get into sport mode here and have to get back up to highway speed. So let's go in 3, 2, and... 100. Not bad. Not bad at all. I mean, considering that this is a small engine, I honestly, I would say that that's pretty good. Pretty good performance there. The regular 2-liter engine still has pretty good fuel economy and pretty good performance. It's just that when you get into the hybrid, it kicks it up a notch and a half. So if you're saving a little bit of cash when you first buy your car, the regular gas engine's okay. If you're going to own it for a while and you want fuel savings, the hybrid is absolutely the way to go. Under the hood here, it's straightforward. There's a little Honda engine cover. You can easily top up your fluids as well. And then you know that this is the hybrid because of the high voltage orange wires. Warranty inside of the Civic is pretty industry standard. Your basic is going to be a 3-year, 36,000 mile, 60,000 kilometer. Powertrain gets bumped up to 5 years, 100,000 kilometer, 60,000 mile. And then the hybrid electric components are covered for 8 years. You just want to make sure you take your car in for regularly scheduled maintenance, regular oil changes as well. I've seen Civics easily pass over 3, 4, 500,000 kilometers, but you need to make sure you take care of your ride. The Civic is pretty bulletproof, and it will absolutely take care of you if you do. Pricing for the Honda Civic in Canada starts at around $29,800 versus $25,400 down in the US, and that's going to go up depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in and even what color choice that you've looked at inside of your ride. The hybrid versions of the ride are going to be more expensive, but that's probably going to be offset with the fuel savings depending on how much you drive per year. This Civic is in the Blue Lagoon paint, which is a nice deep blue. The one thing I think I would probably change, tint the windows out a little bit more, but a blue like this, I don't know what it is, just really speaks to me. The Honda Civic is a sedan and it's fairly low profile. For reference, I'm 6 feet tall and I am towering over this car. But getting inside, first row is easy enough. Second row is equally as easy. And then one nice thing is that there are assist handles along all 4 doors. The Civic has a little walk-away lock feature. So as long as you've got it enabled, walk away without locking, it'll lock the doors for you. The side view mirrors inside of the ride are manual folding. There are turn signals there. And then most trim levels also have the blind spot monitoring system. So if somebody enters the blind spot on either side, that's going to highlight to let you know. There's intelligent access. You can lock the door there by hitting, slide your hand in to unlock. And then there's also the keyhole for the emergency access key. So if the fob zipper died, that's where you're going to get inside. Hopping inside here along the door, there's a little gloss highlight. And then outside of that, the features are going to be the same across the lineup. So you can adjust your side view mirrors along with your windows. There's a little bit of door storage there with a speaker. And then you're also going to find a trunk release. On the inside, you can adjust the brightness of the cluster, turn traction control on or off. And then these are the thermoplastic rubber trays you're going to find from the factory. I absolutely recommend getting them, especially if you live somewhere with colder climates, because these are so much easier to clean off compared to carpeted mats. You're going to find a power adjustable seat in this trim level of the ride. Outside of that, it's going to be a manual adjust. And this seat is also leather, which is really nice. It's super comfortable. So there are 3 different types of seating material you're going to find inside of the Civic. It's either going to be a leather seat inside of this trim level. Outside of that, it's going to be a leatherette, so a faux leather seat, or a cloth seat instead. So that's going to be the lowest trim. And then, like I said, manual seats otherwise. But the seats inside of the Civic are comfortable, and space-wise is actually wild. So I'm 6 feet tall, and with the seat as far down as it's going to go, I've got about 4 inches roughly of headspace. So there's a pretty good amount of space. You're 6'4", 6'5", you'll probably comfortably be able to sit inside of the ride. Yeah, that's not bad by any stretch. Nice. Taking a peek at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Honda Civic. The Civic does technically have 2 different infotainment screens that are available and 2 different cluster screens that are available. So this one is the Sport Touring Hybrid, which is the highest available trim. So that's why we've got this larger cluster screen. But if you're in a Civic with the smaller screen or with the smaller infotainment system, check down in the description of this video for those walkthroughs. As of the time of shooting this video, I don't have those ones available yet, but if they're available, you'll find them down below. But let's dive in and I'll show you everything that you need to know. First thing is that the steering wheel inside the ride might be heated, so you've got a button just along the bottom side of the steering wheel. It's also going to be manual telescoping, so down by your left knee, so you can release there, and then in, out, up and down to find that perfect position. Once you do, click it in order to lock it back into place. And you've got so many other things. So you've got your stick along the left-hand side in order to adjust your different high beams. I normally just recommend keeping yourself in the auto mode. And the big benefit there is that if you're in the auto mode, inside of the infotainment system here, there is also an auto high beam mode. So what that means is that if the vehicle recognizes the high beams are needed, it turns them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it turns them off before turning them right back on again. But when you're in the auto mode, you can't permanently lock your high beams out. What you have to do is go into the bottom headlamp mode instead. When you're there, you can push away in order to be able to permanently lock your high beams out, pull towards you to turn them off. Like I said, you're just going to be in the auto mode the majority of the time. And then on the right-hand side there, you've also got your wipers. So just up one is going to be just a quick wipe, and then you could adjust out from there into different modes if you like to. If you're in the one down mode, so that's an intermittent mode, you could then use the rocker switch here in order to be able to adjust out how fast or slow that rain is hitting the windshield instead. You're then going to pull towards you in order to get the wiper fluid going. Now this car does have paddle shifters, so this is the hybrid. The regular gas engine does have paddles as well, but inside of the hybrid it works slightly different. So as you start to drive in the hybrid and you push down using the left pad, that's essentially going to control your deceleration. So it's essentially going to be a gray bar along the side here, and it's going to make you slow down faster. But when you're inside of the regular gas engine, the paddle shifters, the way that they work, they're essentially 2 ways. So you hit the minus button on the left-hand side, and that's essentially going to increase your RPM. So you can rely on engine braking, or with those higher RPMs, you can then hammer your foot on the accelerator pedal in order to speed up faster. But if you want to walk through on how traditional paddle shifters work, check down in the description of this video. From here, you've got a bunch of different switches, so you can change between all of your different songs this way. So if you have different presets set up inside of the infotainment system, you can change between your presets that way if you'd like to. You could also do a push and hold that way if you'd like, if you wanted to seek out instead. There's a volume rocker on the steering wheel, and then you can also change songs using your voice. 97.7 FM.
All right, here's 97.7 FM.
So you can adjust it that way. And then there's also a little rocker dial here, and that's going to give you different options inside of that left screen. But I'll show you that one as we move closer to the screen, the cluster screen itself. And then you've got all of your different cruise control settings along the right-hand side. So this one toggles cruise control on. From there, once you start driving, you can then push down in order to set your speed. You could then push up or down in order to increase 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time, or push and hold up in order to increase 5 kilometers or 5 miles per hour at a time, or push and hold down to decrease 5 kilometers or 5 miles per hour at a time. So as an example, let's say if you set it at 37 kilometers an hour, push and hold up, it'll bring you to 40, 45, 50, etc. You then can cancel this way if you'd like to. You can hit the brake to cancel your speed, and then you can just push up in order to resume your previously set speed instead. From there, there's also going to be this lane centering system. So the Honda world, there's no full hands-free driving system. But when this one's enabled, as long as it recognizes the lane markings, it's going to keep you perfectly balanced in your lane. It's a really, really good system, but you do have to keep your hands on the wheel, technically. So after about 10 seconds, you'll get a little message inside of the cluster letting you know that steering's required. So you do have to put your hands back on the steering wheel from there. There's also this one, which is a gap adjustment. So it's a distance indicator. So how close or far are you away from the vehicle that's in front of you? So there are 4 unique levels. I normally would recommend level 1 on residential streets, and then level 2, maybe level 1 on highways and interstates, just depending on your own personal comfort level. If you're using the adaptive cruise control system and it's snowing out, always be on at least level 4. Like adaptive cruise in wintertime, you just want to make sure you're leaving enough distance between you and the car in front of you. But it slows down beautifully. From here, once the cruise control system's turned on, if you push and hold that button as well, you hear there, and we've switched out to traditional cruise. So button push and hold again is going to be adaptive cruise. So 2 different cruises, so traditional cruise and adaptive. With traditional cruise control, if you have it set, let's say at 100 kilometers an hour, car in front of you slows down, yours will not brake. So you just have to be paying attention. But with the adaptive cruise control system turned on, if the vehicle recognizes somebody's in front of you, it's automatically going to slow you down. If they change lanes, pick up speed, it's going to automatically pick you back up to your previously set speed. But if you want a live demonstration on how the cruise control system actually works, check down in the description of this video for a little walkthrough instead. And then you've got this little rocker dial there, which is going to let you adjust out what's going on inside of the left side of that cluster screen. But so many different things available here. So again, we'll start with the one on the left side first. So moving down, you've got the flexibility of adjusting a few things. You can customize the display, where you can hide certain things. So if we were to jump back for a second, as you start to move up and down, you see how there are all of these different things. So AM, FM, phone, etc. You've got the flexibility of being able to hide these things out. So let's say if you're never going to use certain things, or you want to show ones, like let's say if you're never going to use AM, you're not going to use, I don't know, maybe Bluetooth audio or Android Auto, but you want to use Alexa, you could do that. And then if you hit back, you can also show or hide audio and the clock. So if you have that turned off, watch this. So we turn it off and we're just a naked cluster screen there instead. So a gauge display. But if you go back and if we toggle it back on again, so let's customize audio and let's go ahead and turn that back on again. You can see there, we've got that showing. So you can kind of adjust this out a tiny little bit, and then the screen along the right-hand side a little bit more in depth. So before we get there, because this is the hybrid, you've got your battery gauge. So that's how much juice the battery currently has. If you were in the regular gas version of the Ride, that would look slightly different. And it's the same thing with this gauge. So this is your hybrid gauge versus your speedometer there. And then you've got your drive mode that you're in. So whether that's going to be Eco, Normal, Sport, and in some trim levels, an available individual mode as well. I love the Sport mode, but that's going to come down to a matter of personal preference. And then you've got all of your safety settings there, your current odometer along the right side, and then you've also got your fuel level along that right side as well. Your digital speed is there, and then which other safety systems do you versus don't you have turned on or off. It's kind of neat. Now, since this is the hybrid, so you can see here, well, you've got your park, so whether you're in park or reverse neutral drive, so it's whatever gear you're currently in, your outside temperature, but this is the hybrid gauge. I almost want you to think of this one like a traditional tachometer. So as you put your foot down, this is going to go up this way. So it's essentially how much power are you using? Very similar to an RPM gauge. But then as you go to brake, so you take your foot off the accelerator pedal, you're slowing down or braking, you'll notice that it goes green and drops down this way instead. So what it's doing is it's forcing charge, and it's going to charge the battery up by capturing that charge as you drive, or as you brake, I should say. So it's going to charge up the battery as you drive, but as you brake, regen braking to capture that energy as well. So it's pretty straightforward once you get the hang of it, but it's also really neat at the same time. And then you've got this little rocker in order to go between a few options. This top one is your power flow. So as you start to drive, you'll notice that this essentially is going to shoot power from the motor back to the battery here and charge up. If you're in the gas engine, this just wouldn't be there. From here dropping down, you've got your fuel economy. So you've got two different options there. So trip counter A versus trip counter B. If you push and hold the button here, that's going to let you reset. So you can either cancel or reset from there. And then you've got a few other options. Now, one thing about the fuel counter gauge, inside of the infotainment system, if you hop into the home screen, you've got your trip computer. And then you've got your menu options for different reset. So you can either reset it manually by doing what we just did there. You can have the counter automatically reset every time you turn the ignition off or every time you fully refuel the vehicle. The big benefit there is that if you're using the vehicle for business purposes, you can at least easily track your mileage that way instead. You've also got your average speed, how long you've been driving for, navigation. So if you had a route going, you wouldn't get full mapping cluster, but you'd at least get your turn-by-turn directions there. And then there's also the driver attention warning. So if you start to veer over too many times without signaling, if you have it enabled inside of the infotainment screen, eventually it's going to tell you that you should probably take a break. So that counter, essentially you've got 4 strikes, and then it's going to say you've got to pay attention. So it's either going to give you a steering wheel vibration or give you a noise. You can see if there are people in the vehicle. So as of right now, I'm the only one here. So my seatbelt is currently not on. You've got your oil life. You can reset that one through the infotainment screen if you're doing oil changes yourself. And then you've got some safety settings. So if you push the OK button there, you can toggle all of these things off. So your road departure mitigation. So that's the one where if you start to veer over, it's going to nudge you back into your lane. There's also going to be your blind spot system. So if you don't care about getting the blind spot system information there, so it's going to highlight in your side view mirror if somebody enters the blind spot, you can toggle that off. Low speed brake control. So if there's a potential collision, it can automatically brake for you. Do you want to have your sensors turned on or off? Collision braking and things like that. So all of these systems, I do recommend keeping them turned on, but if any of them drive you nuts, you've got the flexibility of toggling all of them off instead. There's also no content. And then if you wanted to, you could also change, look at this, so into miles or kilometers. So on that screen, you're just doing a push and hold there in order to be able to adjust it out. And then you can also customize the display a teeny little bit. So you've got different gauge displays that are available. So classic round versus a bar display instead. There's round minimal, so not quite as much there. And then you've also got a bar minimal instead. So slightly different looks. I'm personally just a fan of classic round, but that one's going to come down to a matter of personal preference. And then back from there, you can also hide or show certain things. So remember all of these things that we were looking through? If you don't want certain ones to show up, so the grayed out ones have to be there. These other ones, you can choose whether or not they show up. So as you're back on the main screen, cycling through, it's which options are going to show up from there. Now, the Civic does have 2 different infotainment systems that are available. So there's a smaller 7-inch screen or this larger 9-inch instead. This 9-inch is based off of the Google Android operating system versus the smaller screen is not. So if you want to walk through on that smaller screen, if it's available, check down in the description of this video for a walkthrough on that screen instead. But let's dive in and I'll show you everything that you need to know about this version. You've got some buttons along the outside of the screen, and these ones are locked into place. So you've got a home button, so regardless of whatever screen you're on, you can push the home button to get back home. You've got this back button, and the back button, as you dive into deeper pages, you could push the back button to essentially go 1 page back or back to your home screen. There's a volume rocker there, so you can push in order to turn the audio on or off. You've got a volume rocker there, and then you can change between all of your available stations. So if we go this way, you can see here we're essentially acting as a seek button there. Straightforward. And then you've also got these buttons on the screen as well. So you've got a few of these that are also locked into place. I'll show you how to customize it in a second. You've got whatever current radio station's going on, along with your current connection level. If you've got a phone on the wireless charge pad, you'll see that icon pop up there. And then you've also got this, which is going to give you the option of adjusting out and changing user profiles. A big benefit there is that if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle, you'd be able to change and add in multiple profiles. And the big benefit there is that if you have your phones connected, if you've gone and searched for addresses, if you've got different things set up, so all of your different settings, you can lock it into your individual profile. It's pretty useful if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle. And then when you're in this Google operating system, you can also password protect it using a PIN, which will show you as we dive deeper into the screen. There's also your current time along the top, which you can push in order to get to this other clock view instead. Hit the menu button in order to change out date and time or different clock faces. Well, back home, you've got these icons as I was mentioning. Now, if you do a push and hold on any of the icons, so this one is always going to be in place, and that's the voice assistant. But these ones can all be customized. So let's say if you don't care about power flow or your trip counters, maybe you wanted to have AM or FM radio there instead, you could just do a button push in order to be able to overwrite any of these options. And same idea, so you can overwrite any of these things if you'd like to. So if you wanted power flow back, you wanted your vehicle settings, trip computer, etc., you've got the flexibility of adjusting any of these bottom 5. You then push back in order to lock your changes into place for these ones. You can also customize the layout of these icons. Same idea, you're just going to do a button push and hold. It's going to bring you to this screen. Once it's there, you can then push and hold. Once it's become loose, you can then drag it around onto different pages if you wanted to customize it that way instead. Once you've got those set up the way that you'd like, you're just going to hit back in order to lock those changes into place. Straightforward. And let's dive in. I'll show you what you need to know here. So this is the Google operating system. And the big benefit there is that you've got Google Maps built in. So you've got the option of searching by GPS coordinates here. So you can go by latitude first, longitude second. You can search for point of interest icons as well. So it's nice and Canadian of me. So we've got Tim Hortons there. And once you find whatever location you want to get to, all you're going to do, select, you can start, see if there are different routes that are available. So if you wanted to take a different route out, you could. You can avoid things on the route. So if you wanted to avoid highways, toll roads, or ferries, you could do that. And then once you're happy with whatever route you'd like, you could add in an additional stop or start. So let's say maybe you wanted to add in a gas station along the way. You've got the flexibility to do it. So if we were to go gas station, you've got some different options. So you can kind of choose one along your route if you'd like to. So let's stop at this Petro-Canada because it's along the way. Let's add the stop in. And then you've got this hamburger icon. So maybe you wanted to stop at Tim Hortons afterwards or first, whatever the case may be. You can adjust it out this way. Once you're happy, you just hit done, and then you can start from there. And as you can see, we are fully started. You've got Google Maps built in, and we are searching. Now, on top of that, while you can look at your Google Maps screen this way, inside of the cluster screen, if you use the little rocker switch here, you can drop down into your little map mode there, and that's going to give you not full mapping cluster, but your turn-by-turn directions inside of the cluster screen instead. So you've got your turn-by-turn, which way you have to go next. Kind of useful. From here, back on the screen, you can hit this icon in order to look at different route options if they were available, search for additional addresses, stops along the way, or you can exit out in order to remove the either next stop or fully exit navigation instead. So we search, and then as you can see there, the addresses that we've searched for are now back in, and we can hit back there. You could hit this icon if you wanted to be able to search using your voice. You can hit the voice command prompt if you wanted to search using your voice that way instead. You can hit this icon if you wanted to show satellite view, 3D building views, and things like that. So you've got options, and then avoiding different things on the route as well. You can hit this in order to mute out all notifications if you just wanted to get alerts, or both. You can change up your heading view this way instead. So if you wanted to be north, up, direction view, etc., and then you've got full pinch to zoom capabilities. And since this is a Google device, you've also got the flexibility of hitting this, and you can sign into your Google account. The big benefit there is that if you've been on your phone searching for addresses on Google Maps and you're logged into your Google account, when you log in this way, it's going to pull up any addresses that you've searched for right on the screen as well. Pretty useful, but that's using navigation in the ride. It's very straightforward. Next up is adding in a phone. So as of right now, we have no phones connected. So what you're going to do on your phone, just go into your Bluetooth and you're waiting for Honda Civic to pop up. There we go. And pin numbers match up, so let's go ahead and pair. Do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm saying no to that one. And a few seconds in, we are now connected. So you can stop here if you want to. You're connected over Bluetooth, so you can make phone calls, and then you can also stream audio this way if you'd like. But one of the nice things about this screen is that you've also got CarPlay, but it's wireless. So Android Auto, Apple CarPlay is wireless inside of the screen. It is also backwards compatible, so if you wanted to use a USB-C cable, you've got the flexibility to do it. You're just making sure you're plugging yourself in down the center there. But let's go ahead and enable wireless CarPlay. On your phone, you want to make sure here, use CarPlay with the Civic. Let's go ahead and use CarPlay. Now, if it's not even getting you to this step where you can connect, check down in the description for this video for some common CarPlay fixes that you can try if it's not connecting to your screen. But you can see here, we're fully connected. You could do this little split screen instead. Back into a full screen, you've got your current time and then connection level, which map was open last, which audio application was open last, which miscellaneous application was open last, your battery level, or this little icon view instead. Then you've got your little home screen. So home screen versus icon view. The home screen here is fixed into place, so there's no customizing the layout, but you've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze that you can use inside of the screen as well. My go-to is Waze. I'm a big fan of the app. Big reason why is because as you, let's go this way, zoom in and out. So as people notice things on the map, or on their drive, so let's say if there's construction going on, if there are hazards, if there's a speed trap and things like that, people are pretty good at letting you know so that you can slow down as necessary, and you can mark things off on the map. So if you notice that there's a speed trap or there are hazards, crashes, etc., you can let other drivers know. So that one's going to come down to a matter of preference, but it doesn't matter if it's Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze. On the Apple CarPlay side of things, there's no pinch to zoom capabilities whatsoever. You can hit back home there, but there are a ton of different apps available. Hoopla is a library app. Live One's a radio app. You could listen to your podcasts instead if you wanted to. So a lot of flexibility, but CarPlay does not support video playback as of yet. So strictly going to be music apps through this device, which is what it is. Now, you've also got the flexibility of customizing this a little bit. So let's say if you wanted to change out the wallpaper to customize it, you could. So it's subtle changes that are available, so nothing crazy, but you can adjust the appearance out. There's driving focus as well. Straightforward. Then, if you do a short button push on the steering wheel, so the voice prompt, that's going to be for your built-in assistant. But if you do a longer push and hold instead, that's going to activate your Siri assistant. So short button push is the factory assistant for the screen. Longer button push is your Siri assistant instead. And you've got the flexibility of customizing these icons a little bit if you'd like to. All you're going to do is jump back into your settings on your phone. You're going to go General and then CarPlay. When you do that, you're just going to find your vehicle. You can forget it, but we're looking to customize. And customize here, you can just drag. So you're going to grab the little hamburger icon along the side, drag it to whatever position you want. So if you want a map app along the very top, you can change out the layout here. Anything with a minus next to it, you can also delete it from the screen as well. But it saves it along the bottom. So if you wanted to add it back in, you could. But let's say if you played around with this too much and you don't like the look of the layout anymore, on your phone, top right side, there's a reset. So you can go reset, reset, and that's just going to bring you back to the factory default layout there instead. So straightforward to use. And if you hop back home, you've got a few options. So you could jump into CarPlay a few different ways. So you've got your Apple CarPlay icon there. But remember these icons. You've got CarPlay along the outside here as well too. So you can just hot button push to get back into CarPlay that way. Straightforward. And then if you go into your general settings, connections, device connections, you've got the phone that we've connected. So you could disconnect from CarPlay that way if you want, if you just want to be connected over Bluetooth. Again, you can still make phone calls and stream audio that way if you don't want to be connected to CarPlay. And straightforward here, it's going to take a second to be able to disconnect. And let's continue, and you're set to go. If you click on the phone now, you can disconnect or you can completely delete it from the device. But it's that simple, setting up Apple devices inside of the Honda Civic. Setting up Android devices is the exact same process. So if you weren't on the screen, all you want to do, again, just get back to your connections. You're going to go General Settings, Connections, Manage Devices, and we're just going to go ahead and connect a new device. On your phone, you're just looking for Honda Civic to pop up again. There we go. PIN numbers match up, so let's go ahead and pair. Do you want to allow access to contacts and messages? Again, this is not my car, so I'm going to say no to that one. But you've also got Android Auto, which is wireless, again, inside of this screen. Same idea, backwards compatible with a USB-C cable. Starting Android Auto, and as you can see there, we are fully connected to Android Auto instead. So you don't have to connect to Android Auto, you can just go Bluetooth if you want to. But you've got your Android Auto screen with CBC News there. You can hit this in order to get to a little icon view instead. Back to the home screen, you've got your factory assistant. So since this larger screen is Google based, if you do a short button push, that's going to be, again, your assistant for the screen. Longer push and hold instead is going to be your assistant for Android Auto, so for your actual phone. It gets a little bit more complicated with those as you get into Android Auto, but it's straightforward at the same time. You could hit the map icon here. That's going to bring you into a full screen Google Maps instead. So if you wanted to have that available, you could. It's got full pinch to zoom capabilities though, unlike the iPhone side of things. And then Google Maps on your phone works the exact same way as it does for the screen assistant. So you can search for addresses, you can go here in order to be able to mark things off. You've got route options, change up your heading and things like that instead. You can again hit this to get to a little split screen. There are some other things along the very bottom of the screen. So you've got some basic icons, your connection, battery levels, things like that. Hitting this button brings us to a few other icons, but if you've got Waze installed on your Android device and it's not showing up here, check down in the description of this video for a little walkthrough where I explain how to add Waze to Android Auto. Then you've got the flexibility of customizing this layout a little bit. So on your device, you've got a few options here. You've got your Android Auto settings. So you're going to search for Android Auto, go into your Android Auto settings, and you've got a bunch of options, but we're looking for Customize Launcher. So what we're going to do here, Customize Launcher, and you've got all of your different apps that are available. So anything with a check mark next to it, you can remove it from the screen if you want to. You can also do a drag and drop in order to customize the layout, but it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side of things. So for these changes to come into effect, what you need to do, hop back home, go to your general settings, connections, devices. You're going to disconnect from Android Auto. You're going to reconnect to Android Auto. And we're reconnected. Hopping back into the icon screen, you can see here that the layout has now been changed. So it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side of things, but it's still easy enough to use. Back home brings us back to this setting. So again, if we go into our connections, device connections, you've got both phones that have been connected. So you can either be hooked up to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, not both. But one nice thing is that if you've got multiple phones connected, you can set a priority. So if both phones are in the vehicle, it's who's it going to try to connect to first. You could then hit the option screen here for some basic options. But if you hit either of the phones, you could turn on Android Auto, go back to Bluetooth, or you could completely delete the device if you'd like. Same idea on the iPhone. We're going to go delete, delete, and we're now deleted. And it's that easy setting up Android and iPhone devices inside of this ride. From here, hitting options again lets you turn Bluetooth off completely. So if you just don't want to use Bluetooth whatsoever, you can toggle it off. You can change your priority of device, or you can also change the vehicle name. So if you don't want it to be Honda Civic, if you want it to be Sally Civic or whatever the case may be, you can adjust it out from there. And then hitting back and back home brings us back to the home screen here. So next up, let's go ahead and dive into audio a little bit. So audio for your sources, you've got AM, FM, there's USB, Bluetooth audio, Alexa, etc. So if you had a USB stick with MP3s on it, strictly going to be USB Type-C, but you could plug yourself in that way, and you can easily switch between any of these options. So while that's loading, let's go to FM. You can tune to stations this way. So if you wanted to tune, you could. But one nice thing about the voice command prompt, 97.7 FM.
Got it. This is 97.7 FM.
You can easily change stations out that way instead if you'd like to. Then if you look along the bottom here, you can see all of our available presets. So there are 3 individual rows. If you wanted to be able to save a preset, you just tune to whatever station. You then push and hold in order to be able to save the station in. Now, if you push and hold again, that's going to bring up this option. So you can either remove or replace. So if we remove it, it's deleted that preset. And that's the same with any of them. So if you wanted to save a preset, you just push and hold, or you could drag it around if you wanted to customize the order. So from here, push and hold in order to be able to remove or replace. But when you're on the screen, you push and hold again in order to be able to adjust them if you'd like. So if you wanted to change out the order, you could look at your station list. So if you're new to an area and you're not sure what stations are available, you could just kind of swipe through. You could do a refresh. Anything with HD is an HD radio. So that means that they broadcast digitally, which means you have more stations and it's typically more clear. Again, you could search for stations that way. You can seek this way instead. You've got your presets and hit menu to go into a series of different options here. And it's going to be the same for AM and for FM. So you've got all of your individual AM stations. You've got the station list, scanning, seeking, etc. If we hop into USB, you've got your USB audio library there as well. So we're strictly going to be audio. This USB stick does have MP4 files on it, so video files, but you can't play videos through this screen yet. I'd love to see it. It's just not available at this time. But straightforward using media inside of the ride. If we hop back in again into menu, you've got a series of different sound settings. So if you wanted to adjust out your treble, mid-range, and bass, what I actually recommend, so let's just reset everything back to center. So what I recommend here is play one of your favorite songs. And while the song is playing, what I'd recommend is changing this out to something that suits you perfectly. In my experience so far, something like this tends to give pretty good audio inside of the Civic, but that's going to be a matter of preference. So like I said, play your favorite song, adjust these out until it sounds perfect for you. You can also change out, do you want it to be focused on strictly the driver, passenger, people in the back? You could do a finer focus this way instead, reset it back to the center. You can have it focused on the driver, on people in the back, or full vehicle if you'd like. Straightforward. And you've got your basics, so your artwork if that's available from the station, and then the RDS info would be the info down here. But that's using media inside of the ride. You've got your Google Assistant that way. You can hit the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, or you can say, "Hey Google," and that's going to bring up your assistant instead. Android Auto, Apple CarPlay are grayed out because I'm not connected to either phone right now. There's a trip computer available too. So you've got your current drive. So right now, the fuel economy is not the greatest because I'm sitting here doing an explainer video, but you can see different trip counters. So trip A versus trip B counters. Hopping back, since this is the hybrid version of the ride, you've got your hybrid gauges here. So as you start to drive, you're going to notice what your current fuel economy is. And then as you start to drive here, you're going to notice that the engine is going to have a little line that's driving and recharging up the battery as you go here. It's actually pretty cool the way it looks. Then you can see your total range based off of your current battery along with your current fuel level. Alexa's available. You have to be logged into your Alexa account for it to work. And then there are a bunch of vehicle settings that are available here too. So starting off, you've got your driver assistant settings. So driver assistant, you've got a bunch of options here. So let's see the big ones here. Do you want to get beeps with the adaptive cruise control system? That one's been driving me nuts. Same thing with the lane keep assist beep. So if you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, it's going to beep at you. And then it can also move you back into your lane as well. But you've got your blind spot system here too. So there's a little blind spot monitor right inside of the side view mirror there. So that's going to highlight red when somebody enters the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. And with that monitor, do you want to get an audible alert as well as a visual? So do you want to get something on the side view mirror highlighting, letting you know? Do you just want to get the visual alert, or do you want to get a chime as well? So you can go either or. Traffic sign recognition, do you actually want to show that? Yay or nay? That's going to show up in the cluster screen. Driver attention monitor, if you start to veer over too many times without signaling, eventually it's going to tell you that you should probably take a break. So start veering over too many times, you can get a tactile alert, which means you'll get a steering wheel vibration, or you'll get a little alert inside of the cluster, so an audible noise, and then a little steering wheel vibration as well. If you're going on long distance trips, I definitely recommend keeping that one on. And from here, there's meter setup, and we've seen a few of these. So you've got your temperature display. Do you want to be plus or minus a few degrees? You could adjust out when you're going to be timing out your trips. So again, manual reset. Let's see here, rear seat reminder. So when you go to turn the vehicle off, do you want to get a little reminder in the cluster screen letting you know? And then your turn-by-turn display, and that's the one where if you've got a route going inside of the cluster screen, you're going to get your turn-by-turn notifications on that screen. And then how do you want to measure your speed or units here? Do you want to be in either miles or kilometers per hour? Oh, And as you can see there, as we navigate through to either miles or kilometers, it adjusts what's going on inside of the cluster screen there. And back, key access setup gives us a bunch of options. So when you go to unlock the doors using the fob, is it just the driver's door that becomes unlocked or all doors? So nice safety setting there. Let's see, when you go to lock the vehicle, when you lock, do you get any sort of flash? Do you get a beep? Do you want remote start from the key fob to work, yay or nay? And then lockout prevention, do you want to make sure if the key fob gets locked in the vehicle that the doors aren't going to automatically lock on you as well? Lighting setup, how long do you want your interior lights to stay on for when you lock the vehicle? And then your headlight timer is the same thing. So when you go to lock the vehicle, do the headlamps just turn off automatically or do they stay on for up to 60 seconds? So if you want a little bit of light as you walk to your front door, you've got that available. There are some options for your door. When do you want the vehicle to automatically lock the door? So do you just never want it to automatically lock when you shift from park or as you start to drive? When do you want the door to unlock? Then there's also walk-away lock. So if you've forgotten to lock the door and you walk away from the vehicle with your fob on you, it'll automatically lock the door for you. And then there's also this one, which is a cool one. So rolling the windows down using the fob. So let's hop outside and I'll show you how a few of these things work. In order to remote start, it's also straightforward. So you're just going to push the lock button and then that circle button within a few seconds. So you're going to go lock, push and hold. See us light up a little bit there. It'll take a second and then it'll start up. It's a little quiet because it's the hybrid. In order to cancel the remote start, push and hold that circle button again, and that's remote start. And then there's a neat little key fob trick that you can do. So what you're going to do is push the unlock button twice, but on the second press, you're going to hold. So you're going to go 1, 2, and hold. Watch this. Down the windows go, all 4, and it's also opening up the sunroof. So that is a really useful process. I love it. I wish it was window up as well, but at least you can air things out if you need to. There are some basics for climate control. So when you go to remote start the vehicle, do you want your driver's passenger's climate to turn on? Yay, nay, and at what levels? There's also an individual setting mode here as well. Now, you're only going to find the individual setting inside of the hybrid, so the highest available, so the Sport Touring Hybrid. And what that one is, it's actually going to be for your drive modes. You've got your little rocker switch down the middle here. So you could use this to go between different modes. So individual is strictly going to be in the hybrid, but you've got your eco mode, there's normal, sport, and then the individual mode instead. So the individual mode is where you've got the flexibility to be able to customize it. So what do you want your powertrain to feel like? Do you want it to be in a sport mode? Maybe you want to have sport steering and then sport cluster, but you just want to have everything else under econ. You've got the flexibility to do it. So you can adjust these settings out, again, strictly in the Sport Touring Hybrid, so the highest available trim. And then you've also got your engine oil life. So if you wanted to, you could reset all those items if you're changing oil out yourself. And back into some general settings. System info, you can adjust the date and time. So you can dive into the setting this way, or if you just hit the clock along the top there, you can also adjust the date and time that way instead. So there are a few different ways you can get to it. So you can adjust your day. These are grayed out because you're in auto. So if you deselect, you could then manually set the date and time if you'd like to. So let's turn that back on. That makes the most sense. Same idea with the time zone. So that's going to be an auto zone. But if you live somewhere where you straddle a time zone and it's constantly flipping you from one time zone to the other, you can permanently lock yourself into any of these time zones if you'd like to. And back, you've got your day format and then your time format. So do you want to be in that military time instead? So 12 versus 24-hour mode. You can change out your language for both the center screen here or for your cluster. So if you want your cluster to be in Spanish, but you want this display to be in English, you've got the flexibility to change that around. You've also got some basic about information. So if you wanted to see which version number you're on, so software version, etc., you could do a full factory data reset too. So if you're running into problems with the screen, you could do a full factory reset. There's a way to do a soft reboot as well. I'll show you that one towards the end of the video. You've got your connection screen available here. Privacy options. So if you wanted to share information with Honda, yay, nay. If you want to, normally I'd recommend disabling that one. It's going to be a matter of preference though. App permissions are available. There's infotainment system data. There's nothing, honestly, there's nothing exciting here except for deleting your profile or doing a full factory reset. So if you're selling your Honda, you can just do a full reset in order to bring everything back to the default instead. Options for your display, so you can adjust the brightness this way. You can change out your contrast levels and black levels, or turn the display off if you'd like. Button press to bring it back on. There are some basic sound settings, which we've already seen. Your sound volumes for individual things. So if you wanted your voice recognition volume to be lower, but your navigation volume to be up higher, or your call volume to be up high, you've got the flexibility of adjusting these out. Your camera's available there as well. So do you want to show your rear camera guidelines? Yay, nay. Do you want them to be fixed or dynamic? So if we go into reverse here, so you've got your fixed guidelines here, but because we've got dynamic enabled, as you rotate the steering wheel, you'll also see those dynamic guidelines showing up as well. So you can adjust these out. Do you want both of them? Yay, nay. Cross traffic monitor. As you go to back up, if somebody's coming perpendicular, so from the left or the right side, it's going to let you know of a potential collision. Voice control is here. So your default app is going to be your Google Assistant. You can log into Alexa, or you can have no assistant. So you can see there that the assistant has disappeared. So you could just go nothing if you'd like to, but I at least recommend keeping your Google Assistant turned on, unless you're an iPhone user and you want it to listen to Siri instead. There are some security options, and this is where you're going to create a profile lock. So if there are multiple people driving the vehicle, what I'd recommend here is definitely make sure that you've got some sort of a PIN or a password, at least that way from a general safety perspective. All of the addresses that you've searched for, all of the different presets that you have set up, things like that, would be locked behind a PIN or a password instead. Bluetooth audio's there. You've got your USB as well. So if your phone is hooked up over Bluetooth, or if you have an iPod that supports Bluetooth capabilities, you can look at your Bluetooth audio that way. AM, FM, there are system updates that might be available. Adjusting your clock out. So you'll see a few of these things. You can access it a few different ways. So fully digital compass. You can change out your display mode. So if you wanted to adjust it out, your brightness that way, and then you can see all apps as well. So our home screen has all of these different apps available. If you wanted to not have certain apps, like maybe you just don't care about having your profile settings on the home screen or your system updates on the home screen instead. So if we go back home, those apps have now been fully removed from the screen here. So you can customize, and same idea, if you wanted to move these icons around, you've got the flexibility to be able to do it. And then back from there to lock everything into place. Let's say if the screen's giving you problems. So Android Auto, Apple CarPlay aren't working, it's frozen the screen out, you've installed an app and it's not working for you. You could easily do a soft reboot. All you're gonna do is push and hold the home button for 5 to 10 seconds, and eventually you're gonna hear a little boop. There we go. And you can either cancel this out, you can do a soft reboot, or you can enter safe mode instead. So safe mode is essentially going to temporarily disable any additional apps that you've installed, so you could delete them if that's the cause of the problem. But you could also just do a soft reboot instead. So that soft reboot is going to essentially clear out the cache inside of the screen. So it's not going to do a full factory reset. So it's a soft reboot. It's no different than you just doing a basic restart on your phone instead. So it takes a few seconds here in order to make that happen. And as that's going through, show you a few buttons down the center here too. So you've got your heated seat button. There's dual zone climate control, the ability of adjusting at your fan speed, toggle this on off. You've got your basic mode to go into your face, feet, etc. Front defroster, rear defroster, AC. You've got 2 power points down low as well. So the one on the left-hand side here is going to be for your data connection. The one on the right-hand side is going to be strictly for charging. So data on the left, charge on the right, with a 12-volt power point, and then the wireless charge pad. One neat thing about the wireless charge pad, you've got your button here, and you can actually turn it off. So if you don't want the wireless charge pad to actively be charging phones up, you've got the flexibility to do that. And now that the screen's rebooted, you can hit cancel in order to be able to finish up, and you're set to go here. There are a few different speaker choices that are available. This one is the upgraded Bose audio system. So if we look at, let's go songs and listen to some music here. We're going to listen to 2 songs, and the songs that we're listening to here, they're just coming out of the microphone, so there's no post-processing done in this whatsoever. Nice and calming. And let's go back and listen to something that is a little bit more rock rappy. There we go.
Who are you to tell me how to live life? In these times it feels like nobody's right. Yeah.
The audio inside of this car, especially when you get into this upgraded system, is so good. looking at the audio in the lower trim levels, it is going to be good, just not this good. And the big reason why, it's a tight, small cabin. No, I don't think you're going to be disappointed either way. If you're an audiophile, you might want to look at the higher trim, but outside of that, it's going to be a matter of preference, but I think that sounds pretty cool at the same time. There's an actual hand shifter inside of the Civic, which is great. So there's your park, reverse, neutral, drive as well. It's good. And actually, when you get into reverse, like the backup camera quality, it's not the greatest, but it's not the worst at the same time. For what it is, for the cost of this thing, it's pretty good. And then you've got a few different views that you can jump in between. There are some cup holders down low with an interesting texturized feel across the board there. There's an electronic parking brake hold with this one. If you have it engaged, come down to a complete stop, take your foot off the brake, the car is not going to move. So that brake hold system is pretty useful. There's a little glove box here, fully removable tray with a decent amount of space down there. It's kind of nice. Shooting out to the side, so you've got your four-way blinkers, an interesting design as well. There is a glove box, it's non-lockable, with a good amount of space there. But overall, the interior is pretty good. There's an auto-dimming rear view mirror available. You can turn that auto-dimming function off if you want to. So that auto-dimming function is not standard across the board though. You've got basic controls for your cabin lights. Do you want your lights always on, never on when the door is opened up? And then there's also the option for a little sunroof inside of the Civic. Just opens things up nicely. Now from here, it's kind of nice. So if you've got the shade closed, you could push away and that's going to open the shade and the roof simultaneously. There's a little SOS mode just in case. Sunglasses holder. And then the visor, no ticket receipt holder on the outside or the in. There's a vanity mirror though that has lights built in. And then this, oh yes, it's not fixed in place. That's going to block most of the sun. That's going to be hitting your face inside of the ride. There's an assist handle along all four doors as well. But yeah, like I said, it's nice and simple on the inside here. Pretty good value proposition for sure. All right, and second row times, you've got that same glossy highlight along the door, the option for heated second row seats on the outboard. So the middle seat would never be heated, but that feature is not standard across the board. There's a little bottle holder down low with a speaker. And then, space-wise back here. So as I mentioned, so I've got the driver's seat set up for myself being 6 feet tall. Inside of the second row with me sitting fully upright, it's tight for sure. So hold on, with me fully upright, my head is touching the top. So not the greatest. So you'd have to slouch down a little bit if you're my height. Otherwise, you're okay. Like if you've got young kids, younger families, shorter friends, or just people you don't like, you're gonna stick back here. They'll be okay from a spacing perspective. My only thing would be if you've got taller friends inside of the Civic, if you're in a rollover, the likelihood of something happening and injuring somebody is higher just because of how low that roof is. But you're not gonna get a Civic hoping for the best possible space. Feature-wise back here, you've got no pocket along the driver's side. There is one along the passenger side though. And then you've got basics along the door, so same highlights, an assist handle overhead, basic controls for your cabin light in here as well. And then there are some cup holders that are built into the seat. You've got all of the anchor points with the top tether points up high as well. So you can see the 3 individual tether locations. There is a little hump in the middle seat. Ooh, and it's already pretty tight for me. So sitting in the middle seat, I've got less space for sure. And it's just not comfortable by any stretch, but I mean, if I drew the short straw, I guess I would kind of like hunch down a little bit to make this work. It's super uncomfortable. There is not much design-wise to the rear end of the Honda Civic unless you go for some of the available upgrades. There's an available deck lid spoiler. You can get all of the badges blacked out as well. So if you're looking for something a bit more unique, that is available. You're going to find LED tail lamps inside of the ride. And then there's always going to be the backup camera. That's going to be standard regardless of the trim level that you're looking at. In the highest trim level, you are going to find the reverse park sensing system, but that's strictly going to be the Sport Touring hybrid model. Outside of that, you're not going to find parking sensors in any trim level. Getting into the trunk of the Civic can be done a few different ways. There's a release just on the driver's side door. You can use the key fob to do it. And then just underneath the Honda badge, next to the backup camera, there's a button that you can push in order to unlock instead. And inside of the trunk of the ride, there's actually not much back here. So this one has a little thermoplastic rubber tray. And honestly, if you're going to get messy, I absolutely recommend the trays. It's just so much easier to clean these things off compared to just the regular carpeted mat. But lifting up the liner, you've also got a little inflator kit. The inflator kit is going to be exclusive to the hybrid lineup. So if you're in one of the regular gas engines, you're going to find a mini spare tire there instead. You could technically do an aftermarket spare because you could pull out that tray if you wanted to. But realistically, you do have access to roadside assistance as a Honda owner. And that's good for tire changing, fuel delivery, lockout services, and a number of other great features. It's just that, like I said, in the hybrid, the Goop is the only option. And folding down the second row seats can only be done from the trunk. And that's because there are releases on both the left and the right-hand side. So you can fold them down independently if you want to. If you can reach from the trunk, you're just gonna reach back and drop down. Now, looking at the measurements here, specifically behind the first row, that's going from right at the end of the lip here to just in behind that little armrest between the first row seats. So if the driver's seat, passenger seat were forwards, backwards a little bit, you'd lose or gain a little bit of extra space. The second row seats are obviously locked into place, so you can't slide them forwards or backwards at all, but you do get a pretty good amount of space inside of this ride. Filling up fuel inside of the Civic is done just along the driver's side. And then one nice thing is that when the car is locked, the fuel door is also locked. So you just have to unlock in order to be able to get inside. And it is a capless system that has anti-siphon technology built in. Fuel quality inside of the ride, it doesn't matter if you're in the regular 2-liter engine or the hybrid. Regular gas, so 87 octane is all you need to use. So it has to be at least an 87, so you can't use E85, but no point in going for an 89 or a 91 unless you can get it a bit cheaper or you don't mind spending the cash, but regular gas is all you need. Looking at overall fuel economy inside of the Civic, when you get into the gas version of the ride, it's got pretty good economy, but the economy that you get in the hybrid is a night and day difference. So if you want the best possible fuel economy inside of a Civic, you're absolutely going to want to go for the hybrid. So that's an equation that you have to figure out if it's worth spending the extra money for the hybrid or just save your cash, go for a cheap option with the regular gas engine instead. But there are options available. And the pricing as you get into the hybrid models, not that much different. And if you can save 30% per year, you're saving $1,000, $2,000 a year in gas, depending on how much you drive. It could pay for itself after 4 to 7 years of car ownership. So that's something you have to consider. Overall first impressions of the Civic, it honestly reminds me of the old school Honda Civics that you would have seen 10, 15 years ago. Obviously there's some technology that's way different now compared to back in the day, but overall, the quality here, from what I've seen so far in the 50-ish kilometers since I picked it up, it's pretty solid. Let's get to some en route handling here. Let's put some of this hybrid power to good use. No complaints. I like it. It's the peppiness of it because this is a sedan, so obviously lower profile. So it took those turns there really, really well. There is a little bit of road noise. It's not like it's a crazy amount of noise, but there's noise there for sure. So it's one thing to consider that if you get a Civic, you're probably gonna have to deal with a little bit of road noise. But at this price point, it's kind of hard to complain. And handling inside of the car, that's pretty good. And that was everything you needed to know about the 2025 Honda Civic. You can find all of the build details for this Civic down in the description, along with links off to Honda Canada and US. If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. But if you found this useful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and until I see you next time, take care.